We're not able to hear you.
Havish, you're not audible. Still not audible.
Okay, I've done some magic fixes. What about now?
Yeah, now it's audible.
Excellent. Thank you so much for pointing that out. All right, so we'll start from the top. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking out the time to come for this session. Some of you might know me. We have interacted before. My name is Havish Madhvapati. I'm the founder of Havisham Consulting. I also have Sumit with me today, who will be handling the latter part of today's session. And jointly, we are going to talk about financial automation. And we have specifically not chosen one tool. So we will not be working only on Excel or on Power Query or on VBA or on Python. We are going to try to attempt covering all the three important skills. So I will be covering Power Query, which will work both on Excel and on Power BI. I will also be covering one example on Visual Basic, that would be coding on Microsoft Excel. And then once I do that, Sumit will be covering a few examples in financial automation using Python. Now, some of you might come from a coding background. Others might feel a little hesitant that how can we learn coding suddenly in 1 hour? But especially after ChatGPT has come in, it is not so much important to learn how to write the code as it is to know what question to ask. So we'll get into all of that. I'm going to give you my quick introduction in 2 minutes, just so that you have a sense of who I am, what I do, what sort of clients I work with, the projects that I handle. And then I'll hand it over to Sumit. Sumit will introduce himself. And then I'm going to cover 2 projects for you. And then I'll hand it over back to Sumit, who will handle the Python part of it. The chat window is open. So you are encouraged to ask questions as and when you want. You obviously can unmute yourself as well. It's an open, transparent, comfortable environment. You don't have to wait till the end of the session to ask us a question. Whenever you have any query, you can either unmute yourself or put it on the chat window. And as and when it is possible, we'll make sure to answer it. The session is going to be absolutely packed. Everything is going to be hands-on, which means that neither me nor Sumit will just show you slides. We will do the action live. So when I write a VBA code, I'm not going to take a ready-made VBA code and tell you how to run it. I'm going to tell you exactly what is the problem, how I go to ChatGPT, how I give the prompt, how I copy the prompt, bring it back to Excel, and then I run it. So very quickly, a little bit of my background. My name is Havish Madhvapati. I run Havisham Consulting. It will be half a decade in February, so I'll complete 5 years of Havisham Consulting. Talha works with me as a full-time consultant, so there are 2 of us who run the firm. What we do is a combination of analytics, visualization, automation, and now we are doing a lot of work related to digital transformation as well. We are a Microsoft partner. I am a 40 under 40 analytics. We are also a member of NASCOM. And between Talha and me, we have over 12 Microsoft certifications. So with clients, we focus on building use cases. We obviously help them create solutions for their existing problems. And we do a lot of trainings across various tools, primarily Excel, Power BI, Tableau, a little bit of Python and PowerPoint. In terms of clients, a lot of my work is in the energy and power sector. So if you see the top row, I've been working with Sterlite Power for over 6 years now. I work with a lot of other companies in that space. I'm an ex-Reckitt. That was my corporate experience for 3 years after my MBA. We do a lot of work with CPG companies, and there's a wide assortment of companies. So there's no one function or one sector. We always say that we are not a specialist in any one area, but we are a very good generalist because we have had the opportunity of working with so many companies across different levels. that we have a very good sense of a little bit of everything. So we are the jack of all trades. Um, of course, I skipped the recommendation part. Our work has been featured in Business World. We have worked with Economic Times. We've been featured in Speak in Analytics Insight. These are some workshops that we have conducted at Indian Oil, Bharat Petroleum, NASCOM. Um, the one in the center bottom is at National Stock Exchange headquarters in Bombay. We have done sessions for NABARD at the Lucknow Center. And we've also done a lot of sessions for ET Masterclass. What we do is very simple. There are 6 things. We help improve on the existing model that a business has. Now, this is not necessarily a finance model. It could be on any area, any functional model that is there, we improve it, which means we write better formulas, we improve the turnaround time, we reduce the error possibility. We obviously create business dashboards as well. Earlier, it used to be on Excel. Now we are shifting gradually everything over to Power BI. Since we are working with so many files, we also create relational models to connect multiple files with each other. We create user forms on VBA. And obviously, as a part of these complex projects, there's a lot of architecture design that needs to happen. So we help create processes and workflows for the client, which means that the tool comes secondary. Whether it is Excel, Power Query, VBA, that is not the key consideration. The first task that we have at hand is to create a process. And once we create a process, identify the pain points, that is when we decide what combination of tools is the best option. We, of course, do trainings in a lot of different areas. We have a YouTube channel with nearly 1,000 videos between Tala and me. These are examples of projects that we have done for different clients. So this is a project planning dashboard created for Sterlite Power. This is financial automation for Sterlite. This is, in fact, one of the examples that I'll be covering today. We've also done consolidation of PDFs. So this was a project for Ministry of Power, where there were hundreds of PDFs that we had to combine in a single file. We have also done a lot of work with EY and PwC. Personally, I have conducted over 250 trainings for EY and PwC. So we have done a lot of automation work for them. Simple automation, I like to call it programming for non-programmers. This would not be award-winning codes that we are writing, but imagine an audience who has never done any coding and they don't want to do the manual work of copying and pasting, to and fro between a website and Excel. That is the part that we automate. We also create add-ins. So the ribbon that you see at the bottom, we did it for a fintech company called Zip Loan. So for their entire process, we reduce their turnaround time by 90% by creating a customized list of macros for them. Some of these examples I'll be covering today. I'm also visiting faculty at various B schools. I've done workshops for 17 of the IIMs, the top 8 IITs. We engage with, again, a lot of different B schools. A lot of our interns are doing really well. So I'll probably share the deck with you and you can have a look at that. We also have a podcast called Conversations on Data, where we speak with various business leaders across companies. General conversations about how to build a corporate career, pursuing a career in analytics, and so on and so forth. So that's about me. I will hand over the mic now to Sumit, and Sumit will talk a little bit about what he does. And then I will take the mic back from him. We'll cover 2 projects, one on consolidation of files using Power Query, and the other would be running an automation script on multiple Excel files using a combination of ChatGPT and Visual Basic. Okay, I'm just going to stop my sharing. And Sumit, all yours right now.
Thank you so much, Havish. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Sumit and I am the founder of Sample Set. So what we do is everything from basic analytics to complex data science projects. And our objective is to help everyone understand how to use data, how to understand data as simple as we speak languages, right? As simple as English or Hindi. Our objective is to make data science as simple as that for everyone. So I'll just share my deck once. I'll just show my introduction. Okay. Is my screen visible? Cool. So, yeah, we are sample set and we want to enable data-driven decision making. And I'm the co-founder, and my other partner, Abhinaya. We both have more than 7 years of experience, hands-on experience with analytics, data science, and decision making. And these are some of the clients we have worked with. We have worked with American clients such as Walmart, Zappos. Zappos is a subsidiary of Amazon in US, MetLife, the insurance company in US, and AT&T. AT&T is like the BSNL of America. PayPal and Dunzo and Ola Electric. We are experts in tools such as SQL, R programming, Python, Tableau, Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, and Excel, of course. And our experience is sector agnostic. We have worked in retail, fintech, telecom, manufacturing, EV space, as well as power and semiconductors. So these are the broad level of services which we provide. Four main categories, starting with analytics. So analytics, everything from reporting to dashboarding, which you commonly see. Then moving on to data science, like simple projections like forecasting or customer segmentation or regression techniques and machine learning, so that customers understand what is actually happening at the back end. Then data engineering is basically helping you set up and organize your data from zero up, from ground up. And finally, data products, using different AI tools, including ChatGPT, etc., so that we can create tools for pulling data or extracting data, so that you don't have to sit and write a query from scratch, or maybe simple chatbots. I'll just move forward from the recommendations. So one of the projects we worked with Zappos was, so Zappos is a subsidiary of Amazon, like I mentioned. We helped the client identify what the next action the customer would be taking based on their historical data. So we analyzed their customer's entire journey and we provided recommendations accordingly. The next one was again for Zappos, where during December, there was a drop in the boot sales, and we analyzed various factors, right from external factors to competitor data, and concluded that this is not something that is happening because of something that is happening internally within the company, but due to external factors. Moving on to MetLife, this was one of the projects we helped them with, where we came up with a timeline when the customer, so customers usually would take insurance when they were injured or they faced accidents, and we analyzed a timeline with predictive modeling saying this is when the customer would return back to office. This was another project with AT&T, like I mentioned, the BSNL of India, of BSNL of USA, sorry. Here we analyzed the customer journey. We analyzed each and every click level data of the customers and provided recommendations as to what services they are actually looking for and to promote those services. Finally, one of the projects I worked with Dunzo was to reduce manpower costs in the different dark stores they had. And lastly, the project with Ola Electric was to segment customers according to risk. This was during COVID, when the auto drivers in Gurgaon, this was a first pilot with Ola Electric in 2019, where we segmented customers according to risk level, high, medium, low, and created different strategies to recover our battery assets. Finally, this is my contact information, and thank you so much. I will be handing this back to Havish now.
All right, resharing my screen, everyone. Excellent. I think let's jump into it. Let's get started. This is what all of you are waiting for. Let me open my PowerPoint. Okay, now very quickly in financial automation, first let me sell you on the importance of financial automation. So I have exactly 3 slides that I want to show you. There is a PwC survey. This is not very recent, but fairly recent from 2022, where automation was mentioned as one of the top 3 problems, the challenges that CFOs are facing. The second slide I want to show you is from a BCG report, where, as you can see on the left side, having multiple disparate Excel files is a challenge that not just we have or a small company has, but every organization in the world deals with that problem, which is consolidation of multiple files. And if you look at the word that they have mentioned, the phrase is single source of truth. That is what we are trying to do. How do you ensure that the data that you have is data that you have confidence on? If you can't even have confidence on the data, then it is garbage in, garbage out. The analysis is only as good as the data that you have. And the larger the organization, the more data that you're collecting. Collecting data is the easy part, but ensuring that data quality is maintained, that's the most difficult part. And the third one that I want to show you is from an SAP customer success story. And if you see the part that I've highlighted, having, again, a single source of master data was the challenge that Adani had, where SAP helped them. Now, the reason I want to show you these 3 examples is because I want to sell you on the fact that dealing with data is not a minor challenge or one of the 100 challenges that a CFO has. Of course, they have a lot of challenges, but everything sort of starts with the quality of data that you have with you. So there are 2 projects that I want to discuss with you today. One is, why is there not a single source of truth? And why are there multiple data sets that need to be consolidated? Now, if you think about it, it is not always that the data will be conveniently given to you in one single file. It might be spread across multiple files. And the reverse is also possible, that you have multiple files with you, but you want to perform the same operation on multiple files and not have to do it manually. I'll be sharing the deck with you after the session is over. But as you can see, we have listed down some reasons as to why the consolidation of data is a big challenge. Now, I don't want to make this into a lecture, but if you see the point, I'm sure you will agree with me that, yes, Havish, it makes sense. If you look at the very first one, it says that there are diverse data sources. So an organization is not just dealing with Excel file, but you can have an XML, a JSON, you might have a CSV file, you might have a PDF. So dealing with multiple software, external partners who are sharing their own data with you, there are different departments and there are different sources of data. That becomes a challenge. Legacy system is also a big problem because installing a new software is the easy part. But how do you ensure the data is not fragmented? Because some of your data is on the old system, some of it is on the new system, but you want to make a report that combines both of them. And if you go down a little bit, look at the part where it speaks about, let us say, historical data. Now, if you have historical data that is in multiple files, multiple systems, and again, you can't create a YOY analysis until and unless you consolidate all of that. So this is what is the challenge that we have. Many companies still rely on spreadsheets for a wide variety of tasks. Even some of the largest companies that have SAP with them, they will still have decentralized data storage because at the ground level, their area manager is still creating a Google Sheet or an Excel file. So having the fragmented data is a really big challenge. So there are 2 projects. I will actually start with the second one first. The challenge here is that we want to perform an action on multiple files. So the data that we have is extremely simple. As you can see, I have a folder with me. Let me just call this working. The folder has 4 files in it. The files are named 0001, 2, 3, and 4. And if I open one of the files for you, you can see that it's a very simple stock market data. What we have with us is the OHLC value. So we have open, high, low, and close. As you can see, we have the date, we have the volume, the open, the high, the low, the close, the adjusted close, and the symbol. We have about 100 rows with us. Now, the challenge is that assuming I want to perform an operation, let us say in the column I, we want to write equal to and then find the difference between my close and my open value to find the change. Now, this seems like a fairly simple task. You write a formula, you do a double click, and it gets copied till the final row. But the challenge is that every time the data gets updated and you add additional rows, every single time you have to come here and update the formula as well. Doesn't seem like a complicated task, but it is very much a very manual task. And the problem becomes even more problematic when you have multiple files with you. So as you can see, we have 4 files with us in this folder. Now, you can always say, hey, why don't we just combine the data into a single file and then we can write the formula? I agree to that. But then how are you going to combine all the 4 into one? Moreover, maybe you're not entitled to combine all the 4 into one because maybe the 4 files are managed by different people. And there is a row level security where you don't want to permit the person handling file number 2 to have visibility over file number 1, 3, and 4. So the issue is that at the organization level, I want a formula to be written, but at a more granular level, we don't want the person with access to 1 to access 2 and 3 and 4. Now, 2 years back, before we had ChatGPT, you would have done this either manually or you would have written a VBA code. Now, the remarkable part is that today, I can literally use a free account of ChatGPT to instruct ChatGPT to write a VBA code for me. And like I promised you, I will not just copy and paste the code for you. I'm going to write the code for you from scratch so you can literally see how easy it is. And maybe it's not that easy, but at least the fact that you don't have to code anything, you just have to learn how to ask the right prompt. Let's have a look. So I'm going to go to a new chat window. As you can see, we do have GPT-4 with us. We also have a ChatGPT team subscription, but I'm not using either of them. As you can see, we are working on the free version of ChatGPT, which means that all of you can also go back and try this out. Now, what I would like to do here is give it an instruction as clearly as possible. So I literally want to talk to it the way I would talk to another person. So imagine I'm talking to someone in my team and I tell that person that, hey, I want you to write a formula in the cell I2, which is nothing but F2 minus C2. That is literally what we want to do. So I want to come back and I say that write a formula in cell I2. And what is the formula? The formula is, as you can see, F2 minus C2. So we come and say F2 minus C2, but we have to give it some more context. We have to tell it that, hey, it's not just one file. These are multiple files. So I'll copy the folder path, as you can see, copy the entire folder path. I will tell it that I want you to use VBA, Visual Basic for Application. Then we tell it that this is my folder path. This contains multiple Excel files. And now I want to tell it, go to each file and perform this operation. So now we tell it, hey, go to each file, write a formula in the cell I2. The formula is F2 minus C2, and then copy the formula till the last cell. And that is it. I press enter. And as you can see, it's a completely customized code for me. It's not a generic code where I still have to give it further inputs. It literally writes the entire code for me. And before I run it, I just want to tell you that reading a code is very different to writing a code. Even if you feel that, hey, how can we just learn a new language overnight, which you can't, you have to understand that learning it and writing it is not the important part. You just have to understand how it works, right? You don't have to memorize it. You don't have to give an examination. So what it does is, first it takes the folder path variable. That is the path that we have provided. As you can see, first it checks if the folder exists or not. Did I tell you to do it? I did not. Even though I did not ask ChatGPT explicitly to check it, it is smart, right? That it is automatically detecting that if the folder path itself doesn't exist, then it should not do anything. Then it is running a loop through each file because I want to perform an operation not just on one file, but on every single file in that folder. So it essentially takes the folder path and all the Excel files which are there. And as long as the file name is not equal to blank, that means it will go to file number 1, then to file number 2, 3, and 4, till it reaches the last file. Then it goes to the sheet called sheet 1. Now here we are assuming that our sheet is called sheet 1. But in case your sheet was called something different, or maybe your sheet did not have a consistent name, we could have told it that don't assume that my sheet has the same name. Please go to whichever is the first sheet of my workbook. After that, it goes to worksheet range. That means it's going to the cell, writing the formula F2 minus C2. Then it fills the formula till the last cell. So if you look carefully, it is filling the formula till what is called the last row. What that means is that I2 is the first cell. And then when I keep on going down, how do I know that the last used row of my workbook is a particular row? In our case, 101. It is automatically calculating that. And then it closes the workbook, saves all the changes, and then it loops it. It goes to the next file in that folder. How do I run it? I just have to copy the code. We will open a new Excel file. Let me delete the formula that we have written. On the sheet 1, which is the name of the sheet, I will right click and select view code. This takes me to the developer tab. If you look at this, my current workbook, which is the one I'm using to run the code, is called book 1. We will insert a module, and that is it. The final step is you have to paste the code. Let me just recap that. We opened a new Excel file. I did a right click on any of the sheets. We selected view code. That brought us to the VBA window. I selected the file on which we are working. We did a right click and insert and a module, and we pasted the code. That's it. Now let's see the magic happen. I just want to click on the run button. My hands are in the air and see what happens. So the moment I click on the run button, you see what's happening is literally opening each file, writing the formula in the cell I2, copying it till the last cell, and that's it. It does the entire thing for me. Let's go back and check that. And now, as you can see, I have the ability of opening any of the files, and it's fantastic. Watch this. It literally writes the formula and copies it exactly till where I wanted, which is till the last cell. Now you might say, hey, this is great, but I forgot to write a heading in the cell I1. Now you might be tempted to say, Havish, what's the big deal? You know, the formula is here. It's just going to take me like 10 seconds to open each file and put in the heading. But I have a question for you. What if there were 50 files? What would you have done? What if there were 500 files? And that happens very often in financial automation. It doesn't make sense for you to do it manually, right? So I again want to come back and I want to tell it, loop through the same folder, go to each file, add the text, and the text is difference in the cell I1. So you see, it's a continuation of the previous code. So I don't again have to tell it that, hey, this is the folder path. It knows what the folder path is. And what we are doing is it again goes to the folder path, checks for the folder, all the files, checks for the extension of that file. It goes to the sheet called sheet 1. And as you can see, in I1, it's writing difference. We again copy the entire thing, copy. I will come back, repeat the entire process. I will go to view code, go to my module. Below the first one, I'll copy the next one. We again run it. And it just works, right? Now, just to show you one other variation before I pick up your questions, everyone. Imagine what would have happened if the sheet name was not the same. Think about it. Right now, we have a very big assumption that all the sheets have the same name. Now, see, ideally, it should be. But then there is no guarantee of that, right? For example, let us say, I'm just copying the folder one more time. Let us say that we assumed that the sheet name is sheet 1, but now when you look at it, one of the files had a space in between sheet and 1. Now, this is not known to us, and this happens all the time. It's a manual error or a system error. Now, everything is going to break, is it not? Because now when I go back and I run the code, look what happens. If I go back and I run the code, while it is going to do it for the first file, it says, hey, there's an error that I've encountered. And if I click on debug, it tells me, I'm sorry, but I couldn't find a sheet called sheet 1. And it breaks. Now you have to first create the process. That is why whenever you're doing automation, you have to understand that the code is the easiest part. First, you have to create the ideal process. You have to understand what is the input that you have. You can't just jump into an example or a process assuming stuff, right? So now I want to come back and I want to tell it that, hey, let's close the file. I want to come back to the code. And now I want to tell it in the very first one, please note that the sheet name is not the same in all the files. And as you can see, it modifies my initial code for me. And the only one small difference that you would see is, look at this part. Let me have a look. Hold on. Okay, so it's looping through all the sheets in the workbook. That's not really what I want. So I'll have to tweak the prompt a little bit. I will say that, please note that there is only one sheet in each file. And then I say, but the sheet name is not the same. Let us see if that helps. We'll run the code again. And this time, if you notice, it says, do you see this part? Now it says wb.sheets, and in parentheses, it's right 1. What that means is that if I go back to the original code, here it explicitly wrote the name of the sheet. So in double quotes, we said sheet 1, but this time it is smartly writing wb.sheets1, which means that irrespective of what is the name of that sheet, I can still run the code. And if you notice, works perfectly. So that is how you can start with like a simple problem, handling the most important tasks that you want to automate. And then gradually you can, keep on adding layers of automation to it. So when we work with the client, we always understand what is the most automatable part of a process, because that is what is most critical. Then we identify what is the part which is difficult to automate, and more importantly, is not on priority list. See, the wish list of a client will have 100 things. The client might even tell me, hey, I don't even want a person to sit on the computer and run the code. I just want it to happen at 8 a.m. in the morning every day. But is it worthwhile? The amount of time and effort that it will take me to automate to that extent, is it worth the cost benefit ratio? It might not be. That is where we have to decide. And my job as a consultant is to sit with the CFO and understand what is the priority list, what are the important pain points in the current process. The first thing is to even create the process, assuming there isn't one, and then try to identify what should be automated in phase 1. And then gradually, as they become used to the concept of automation, we keep on adding more and more layers of automation. So that was project 1. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed it and there were some learning takeaways for all of you. If you have any questions, you can ask me. I'll take another quick 5-10 minutes to walk you through the second example, which is how we can combine the data from multiple files into a single file. While we can do the same thing with VBA, I do want to show you Power Query, which will work both on Excel and on Power BI. So remember, it's a safe environment. So there are no bad questions or silly questions. If you have anything on your mind that you would like to ask me or Sumit, please go ahead. We'll be more than happy to try and answer that question to the best of our capability.
Hey, Avish, Shekhar this side.
Hi.
Like we are doing a calculation, we are calculating difference, and we are assuming that the values will be in numeric state. So can we write a validation like it should be in numeric state, and if we have something like character value, it could flag some errors?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm going to do it right here. I will tell it that please note that the values in column C and F might not be numeric, that they might be saved as a text. Could you flag that for us? All right, let's have a look. I'll just highlight the part which is doing this task. So as you can see, okay, look at this part. What it does is it says that just like in Excel, we have a function called is number and is text. Similarly, in VBA, we have something called is numeric. So that's what we're doing. We are saying in my worksheet says I, comma C. C refers to the column, I refers to the row number. So remember, we are running a loop from row number 2 till the last row. We have 101 rows with us. So it literally checks each value from C2, C3, C4, C5, all the way up to C101. And it ensures that if it is numeric, let me just see what it is doing. Okay, it says that if it is numeric, it will calculate the formula. If it is not numeric, you will notice that it puts a red color on top of it. You can always instruct it to not put a color, but maybe flag it or put a comment in the cell, or I don't know, give you a message box telling you that this is the problem in the cell.
Thanks, Avish. Yeah.
Great. Anyone else? Any other question? Do you see how smart this is? I mean, all of you who have never done coding before might not appreciate how absolutely, utterly amazing this is. I have spent the better part of my consulting career learning and writing VBA code. And let me tell you, I still pinch myself sometimes thinking we're at a point in time where all these things can be done in a single prompt. We literally used to spend like half a day writing these things prior to ChatGPT being there. But you know what? If you ask me, Havish, how were things before ChatGPT was there? I don't think that even matters, right? Like these are just stories. How does it matter how things were pre-ChatGPT? Today you have a tool with you, and the only metric for you is in an interview or in a conversation. If people ask you, hey, can you find me the solution? It's either a yes or a no, and it's a question who's the fastest. I don't care if you have done it manually or using ChatGPT, or I don't know, you have some magic way of getting the result. What matters is the quality and the output, not the approach. So if you're not using ChatGPT, you're doing a high disservice to you. So, I mean, if a person comes and says, hey, I did not use ChatGPT and I did it manually, I don't appreciate that. I would rather feel that the person doesn't know what they're talking about. And that's the wrong approach. The correct approach would be to use ChatGPT to the fullest and get as comfortable with ChatGPT as possible. Yes, for everybody's reference, the session is being recorded and it will be shared once the session is over. Okay, I have already taken a lot of Subit's time, so I'll quickly jump to the second example and then I'll hand it over to him. Now, the second example that I have is a little different. We have the same data, and what we are trying to do is, I want to combine the data from all the 4 files. So as you can see, we have 00, 000, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I want to append it one below the other. Now, traditionally, this is done manually. You will still be surprised to know the extent to which my clients today, Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies, still have people who do this manually. Why don't we do it on VBA? We can, but then it's programming. The chances of an error happening are very high. And a lot of companies aren't happy about the fact that we are writing a code, because if something goes wrong, identifying the error, tracing it is very difficult. That is where Power Query comes in. Now, Power Query, remember, is only available on 2016 MS Office and above. So if you have an older version of Microsoft Office, you might not see Power Query with you, but I'm assuming that all of you do have a fairly recent version of Microsoft Excel. Power Query, the good part is also available on Power BI. So whatever I'll be telling you in the next 5 to 7 minutes, exactly the same thing works in Power BI as well, which is the #1 business intelligence platform in the world. All that I have to do is I go to data, and then on the far left side, we have an option called get data. I will select Power Query editor. Now that is the window, the interface where we write Power Query code. But for now, we will first select from file. I will select from folder. Now the folder doesn't necessarily need to contain only Excel files. It could be Excel, PDF, CSV, XML, JSON. And all that we have to do is click on the folder. Let me hop over to my desktop. I will select Financial Automation Project 01 and Power Query. We go to open, and the first thing that Power Query does is it confirms to me the number of files that are there in the folder. So I can see there are 4 files. I simply want to combine and transform it. And now, as you can see, it simply asks us to select the sheet. Now, similar to the VBA automation, we are assuming that the sheet name is consistent in all the 4 files. What happens if they're not consistent? One option is you can write a VBA code to run a loop through all the files and change the name. But if you don't want to tamper with the original file, another option would be to customize the Power Query. But for the moment, I'm assuming that our files are spick and span, that the sheet name is consistent in all the files. That's it. I select sheet 1. We go to OK. And you know what? That's it. We have to do absolutely nothing else. What it does is it now opens the Power Query interface. And you can see that on the left side, we have Power Query Stock Market. That is the name of the folder. And if you look at the source name, it has literally combined the data from all the 4 files. And the best part is that all the steps, exactly like a macro, have been recorded on the right side. So we now have the steps that have been recorded. We have the source, hidden file, custom function, rename column, remove, expanded table column, and change type. And that's it. Tomorrow, if you add another file to the folder, all I have to do is go to home and select the refresh button. Amazing, right? So imagine I go to close and load. All the 4 files that have been combined come on my Excel. You can see that we have exactly, okay, some of the blank rows have been picked up, but that's all right. I just wanted to show you that if I do add one more file to the folder, let's add, I just copy and paste this. I will change the name to 0005. And all I have to do now is to right click and refresh. And as you can see, it adds 0005 as well. Of course, there are multiple levels of customization that we can do in this. For example, we can parameterize the folder path, the file name, the type of the file. We can choose whether we have subfolders, multiple sheets in a file. What if the sheet is protected? What if there are hidden rows, hidden columns? All of those can be accounted for. I have videos on my YouTube channel that explain how to do this. So there are like 100 variations I can think of right away. But I can tell you with utmost confidence that Power Query is a tool which is deep enough that it doesn't just handle data which is given to you in such a neat manner. Even if your data is very cluttered and very disorganized, it does have the features and the capability, and this is the M code that it is writing behind the scene, to be able to handle all the issues that you have. These are projects that I handle for a lot of clients. So I'm doing a lot of data consolidation, automation work for clients like Bharat Petroleum, National Stock Exchange at the minute. Yeah, so that would be me. If you have any questions, I'm here, happy to answer. And then I'll hand it over to Sumit.
Great. I think no questions then, Havish.
Great. All yours.
Brilliant session. Okay, thank you so much, Havish. So before I go on to the 2 small snippets of projects which I want to show, let me understand from you all, how many of you have used data in any aspect, maybe in professional life or any, where you wanted to make a decision. You've used data to make a decision. You can maybe react or maybe put it in the chat. Havish, nobody has used data in the past. Okay.
So yeah, we basically using the data for the automation for the analytics parts. So it's
Mhm.
maybe sales data, financial data, or like some automation in our organization.
Got it. Got it. Great. So I see about 10% people using data. Great. Um, okay. Have you all wondered that maybe when you're talking to a friend or a colleague or someone, and let's say you say that, hey, I want to book a Goa trip, and immediately in the next 5 to 10 minutes, you start receiving coupon codes from, say, Make My Trip or Clear Trip. Hey, you're getting 10% discounts. How many of you all have experienced this? Wow, 4, 5. Great. So all of this happens because data is something like a gold mine, and it gets tracked by your mobile apps and your laptops and all your tech devices. And they use this data to give you all recommendations as to what you should be doing. So everyone is listening to your data. So my point is, data is like a gold mine, right? So with that in mind, I'm just going to share my screen quickly and give you a small example of how tasks can be automated using a simple data scraping technique, right? Okay. Just a second. Great. Is my screen visible? Cool. So this was one of the projects we had done recently. So what happens is, one of the energy company wanted to automate things. So every time you get a electricity report by the government in the form of a PDF, I will just show you a sample of this. So let's say if I'm looking at the regional power electricity, it's gonna quickly refresh. Okay, coming. Great. So these are a couple of issues which most people even face because this is a government website. So let's say I wanted to see the electricity usage and the scheduling for the month of November for my company, assuming I'm a electric power company. This is a long 60-page PDF, right? If I just keep scrolling, and they wanted to know just the data for their specific company. So I'm just going to do Control F. And for this spring energy, basically how many watts was scheduled, how was the deviation, right? Finding all this in 60 pages and having such, say, 10 files even, right? That takes a lot of time. So there are so many fields which we want to capture for this specific company. But let's say even if we sit and copy paste each of this in an Excel, say 10 minutes for each file. And if there are 10 files, it takes about 100 minutes, which is 2 hours of your day. So how do we make this simpler? We just want to do a simple keyword matching. So I am not gonna, I'm just gonna show you the code quickly, which I had written at my backend. So what I'm doing is in Python, I am basically importing the libraries. I'm not going to deep dive into this since we have a shortage of time. I'm just going to briefly give you an overview. Importing the files, the different libraries, trying to understand what keywords need to be matched, and finally gonna do a little bit of scraping and for the specific keywords. So these are the specific keywords which I'm looking for my company. And then gonna write a final CSV out of it. I'm just gonna quickly run it and show. Is my screen visible? The terminal window? Hello?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I'm just gonna pull the code which I've written in my terminal window. Now it's asking for the URL of the PDF. Coming back here, I'm just gonna copy paste this URL. It's showing total of 61 pages. Found these entries. And now what it will do is it has created a PDF. If I come back here and open this PDF, sorry, it has created a CSV. So I've gotten the desired fields which I want from a 61-page document, a PDF, where you cannot just directly extract, right? So this is where automation in Python comes into play. You just have to run a small command where everything will get run in seconds, and you won't have to spend even 10 to 15 minutes to sit and copy paste each and every document. I can show you one more example. So let's say if I'm opening the same one for the month of October. Again, this is 56 page long. I'm just going to copy the URL. I'm going to open. So Python space the name of the file .py, and I'm just going to paste the link. It will take just seconds to scroll through 56 odd pages and quickly come up with the results. And it will also create a CSV. Press enter to exit. Okay, coming back here, I have a file for October in the same format. So all your PDFs and your simple automations can be done using Python and writing a simple script. So before I move on to the next project, I'm just quickly going to take questions if there are any.
How to write code?
So for Python, there are very simple videos which I can maybe share after this, where you can get started with how to start coding in Python. It is not very complex. It just, for basic level, it takes a couple of hours. I can share those links with you. Or maybe I can even create a training video for that. Havish, can we do that?
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, do what?
Maybe how about we create a training video where I am maybe giving a small hint of how Python can be used.
Absolutely. I mean, if everybody wants it, we'll be happy to do a follow-up.
Sure. Cool. Moving on to the next one. So before I start the next one, how many of y'all, just gonna stop sharing for a second. How many of y'all do stock trading or understand or have friends who do trading or stocks? Can I maybe get a raise of hands or reactions? Anything? 2, 3, 4, 5. Great. So have you all wondered that, let's say, if there is something, a specific stock which you have taken, how if it goes up or if it goes suddenly down, you directly get a notification on that app. Have you all wondered how that happens? Cool. So what happens is, usually there is a certain trend of data which is happening. Let's say it is ranging between, say, 50 to 100, and suddenly there is a spike or a drop. In that case, it exceeds exceeds or falls below a certain threshold, which is like an anomaly or an outlier. So using data, or say simple Python, we can do anomaly detection or spike detection, or you can call it outlier detection, right? So the example I've taken is, I've taken a dummy data of a balance sheet of a company where there are deposits and there are withdrawals, and it will give you a flag when there was a certain threshold that was crossed, when there was a very high amount that was withdrawn, or maybe a very small amount that was withdrawn, or maybe extreme cases, right? So I'm just going to quickly show this, sharing my screen. Okay. Great. So basically the ones in brackets are negative. These are credit amounts, and the others are positive. I'm going to slightly zoom in, right? This is a sample data of about 50 odd rows, just for simplicity. So if someone wants to understand what is the maximum amount that was withdrawn or the maximum deposit that was done, the simple way in Excel is, let's say I'll take this data, I will just paste it here, for example, and maybe I will sort by amount values, small to low. But then the question arises, if you see, when you see the normal amounts, 13 lakh was credited, 4 lakh was credited. These are two big amounts as compared to the other, which are happening in thousands. And when I scroll down, the maximum amount that was debited was 3.85 lakhs and 4.75 lakhs. And the rest of the amounts are small in thousands, right? So then the question arises, you'll ask me that, hey, Sumit, but this is just a small data. What do we do when, say, we have lakhs and lakhs of rows, right? For every employee, for every company, and month on month or a daily data, how do we identify these big amounts which are withdrawn or which are deposited? Is there a way to track this? Is there a method that which we can do? So I'll just show you a simple Python code which will show you how to identify the outliers. So what I've done is, I have bucketed this data into 4 buckets, 4 quartiles. The technical term is quartiles, so that we break it into 4 pieces and we exclude the outliers, right? So if I just maybe run this, you can see on the right side, you see these 4 values, right? The 13.63 lakh, which was credited, the 4.7 lakh, which was debited, and 3.85 lakh, which was debited, and the 4.4 lakh, which was credited. So these are the 4 outliers which we earlier saw in the Excel as well. So writing a small Python code can help identify these outliers, even if we have big data, or say data with lakhs and lakhs of rows. So yeah, I will take a couple of questions now, if there are any. Great. I think that was it from my side. Over to you, Havish.
Yeah, I mean, platform is open for everyone. If anybody has any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
So both these techniques, what is showcase as a web scraping and the Python can use for business. I want to learn in detail. So how can I learn this? What are the sources, or can you help me in regards to this?
Sure. So Havish, I believe we have Ganesh's email address. I can maybe share a few
Absolutely.
resources.
We'll share a couple of links with you, like curated links of who the best people are that you should follow and some courses that you can pursue.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Great. Anyone else? Any other question? Anything else that you would like us to cover in maybe one more session? We'll try to do that as well.
So sorry, I today I joined late. I got the information where means like just in evening right now. But you have showcase us ChatGPT which we can use. Can you come up with some more cases if you are use cases you can plan next time? So it will really help us to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
100%. We just wanted to do this as a test to see what the response is, and we'll be absolutely looking for more sessions in the future.
Even I wish like your teaching pattern. I follow your courses. I have taken your bundle also and learning those. So you can come up some course regards to this you with some use cases, because it's the tool and you are the consultant. So how you are tackling the business problem. So it's very helpful for us who is right now in this profession.
Sure. Absolutely. We are on top of it, and we'll definitely consider it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Shekhar says next topic would be dashboard building. Sure. Yes. Why not? So we can do dashboards in different tools as well, right? Havish, Power BI.
Yep.
I can cover Tableau, Adobe Analytics, Google Analytics, and whatever there is.
Yeah. Between this and other things, I mean, we'll be happy to create dashboards on anything and everything, but we'll probably pick the ones that are most popular, most in demand. So yeah, we can consider that as well.
Great. Anything else?
Hi, Havish and Sumit. Just wanted to know how to start with the Python, because lots of things is going on with the Python in finance industry basically. So can you please share some link or something course so we can start with basics?
Absolutely. Yes. Let me just collate a few beginner resources and share it with you.
And if possible, next time maybe take some cases on Python for basics level. So it will
Sure.
help us. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else? Any questions? It could be anything. It could be a silly question like I said or anything.
Sumit, you're not in the training zone. You don't give training, I believe.
So I have not started training. So I am more into the consulting space, but I have mentored over 100 students unofficially. But I mean, if you have a certain requirement, we can think about it.
And how can I approach you for that?
How you can just connect with me on LinkedIn,
Okay.
Sumit Hanagar, and we
Okay.
can discuss.
Sure. Thanks.
Anyone else? Any question? Anything? It could be. You can even share a story or anything. It's okay.
So was this first session, or this is something you're doing regularly, Havish?
Hopefully the first of many.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that we take a lot of feedback, because at the end of the day, it is not about what Sumit and I work on. It also has to create an impact. The idea today is not to show off and tell you what we do, but to have some takeaway for you where you can go back a little smarter, having an understanding of what we do. Just us coming and talking about our amazing consulting work is not really helping you, right? So the hope today was that whatever we demonstrated, you have some confidence that, hey, we can also go back and try these things out. So we are definitely going to plan many more sessions in the future.
Yeah, we should. Your purpose has been met. Like before today, I thought like prompt engineering is a big term. We need to learn it, but the way you are writing it in a simple layman terms, phrases. So I have a bit of confidence. Like even I can do that.
Great, great.
So
Good
you
to
can
know.
see the level of curiosity and interest that is generated by just this first session. Probably you should go for a few more.
100%.
Sure. Thanks so much, both of you.
Havish, if one wants to start learning the data analytics from scratch, what should be the start point and from where we should start?
Yeah, I think between Sumit and I think the work we do is quite complementary in nature. So we just curate a number of links and the best people to follow on LinkedIn. I think that will be sort of a learning path for you. Just allow us maybe a day or two to compile everything neatly in an Excel file. And I already have everyone's email. So we'll make sure to send it back to you.
Yeah, thank you.
So just to answer your question, right, you can even start with basic Excel if that is your entry point. Once you try understanding a little bit in Excel, that could open pathways for you to explore other things like, say, dashboarding or even a little bit of programming, right?
Right, sir.
Binod sir, any feedback from your side? Would love to know.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I've got 31 years of experience in IT and in the domain, but hats off to Havish. He's a wonderful person who explains and comes to the grassroots. And I mean, the way Havish brings about points, it may be a varied number of audience. You bring everybody onto a same platform. And I've done large amount of analytics part of UIDI, where I have 1.4 billion records.
Correct.
But yes, in terms of usability, we are quite primitive in that way. Probably even Excel is not being used. We use MapR as our BI tool most of the time. But yet, I would like to be more associated with you, and you're a wonderful trainer. For that part, I would certify you AA plus 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 plus. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think, Sumit, I think with that we can call it a wrap. And everyone, you will definitely hear from us. We don't really have anything to sell, so you don't have to worry about that. The only purpose was to have an interaction because the only selfish interest that Sumit and I have is that if we do a session to share our knowledge, I think we also get smarter, right? That is the only selfish interest that we have. So you will definitely get an email from us with all the documentation and the links that you were seeking. And both Sumit and I are always available on LinkedIn for any query. And like I said earlier, to the best of our ability, we are always approachable and always happy to help. Great. Thank you, everyone. We'll call it a wrap.
Thank you, Avish. Thank you, Sumit.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for the
Thank
wonderful
you.
session. Thanks.
Bye.